We're gonna make it this time. We're gonna take it home. Let's go. Let's go. Do it. Do it. Make it happen. Where there's a Mets man, you'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year for all your Mets here. Let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home Make it happen. There's no stopping us now. We're gonna do it again. It's not a question of how. It's just a matter. It's just a matter. It's just a matter of
Hello again, everybody. Joe Piscopo, Shea Stadium. The big story. Mets 86. Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look. We got the teamwork to make the dream work. We got the teamwork to make the dream work.
What's up, baseball fans, and what's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob and day 2 of the MLB Free Agent Frenzy. Unfortunately, day 1 wasn't really a frenzy. It was more of a hop, skip, and a jump just to get our blood flowing and get all the fans anxious. And, of course, it's Friday, so you know you got to go Blackout Friday if you're a Mets fan. Keeping up the tradition of the New York Mets. Started in 2 years ago, but definitely started last year, every Friday home game. So you're going to keep it up and wear the black out on Friday. And that's what we're doing here on Talking Mets at Rob. So thank you for tuning in to MLB Free Agents Frenzy Day 2. Hopefully everybody is having a good day. If you're in the New York area, it is pouring rain and there is possibility of blackouts. So just so you guys know, there could be a blackout. Who knows? So if I do cut off, you know why. But at the moment, we're live, we're here, and we're ready to talk about all the different rumors that popped up, starting with the New York Mets, then around baseball, and what Mike Puma tweeted, which I just don't understand. Why Mike Puma and a lot of these beat reporters specifically for the New York Mets put this out there and act like Met fans are going to believe it. And we're going to start off just with Mike Puma and his tweet. He tweeted earlier today that the Mets payroll, or the Mets are hinting, which I don't know where he got that from, that their payroll is not going to be as high as everybody thinks, that they're not going to go crazy this winter. And this is what Mike Puma tweeted. That's obviously, I'm paraphrasing here, but that's basically the gif of what Mike Puma said from the New York Post. Well, here's the problem with that, because Mike Puma brought up the other day that the deferments of the Edwin Diaz contract, which is $26.5 million, that goes all the way to 2043 or something like that. And he brought up that reason of deferment thinking that the Mets are not going to spend and go over all these luxury tax penalties. Well, if you pay attention and understand what they're trying to do, it's all about the CBT this year and next year, because the majority of the early deferments are lowering the AAV of Diaz for this year and next year to help out with the CBT, so the Mets have a little bit more flexibility to spend more money in the next 2 years to do whatever they need to do. If that's trades that adds on money, or signing big time free agents, or just continue to add money, they can do that without much thought. And that's why when I tell a lot of Mets fans that take a lot of these beat reporters to heart and get too much emotional, either happy or sad or mad, when it comes to John Heyman, Andy Martino, and Mike Puma. Mike Puma is a very good reporter, but he is one of those guys that likes to shake Met fans. He likes to rattle the Met fans. He's done that all throughout his career, and especially when I've followed him on Twitter more and see what he writes more, he always seems to rattle. I look back at his tweet around the same time last year, and he said nearly the same exact thing, yet the Mets spent well over $100 million and got one of the best pitchers on the market in Max Scherzer. So take it for a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. Make sure you understand why the Mets deferred the money, and specifically deferred the money the first 2 years to lower the AAV for Edwin Diaz, so they can use a couple of $1 million more for the next 2 years, depending on what they'll do in free agency and trades to add money to this payroll. We all know, everybody knows, that no matter if you like the sign-in or you like the trade, the Mets are going to add money, and even if they bring back all their players, even though that might not make everybody happy, it might make some happy, but even if the Mets sign all their free agents, they're approaching $320 to $325 million payroll. So no matter if they sign the same players that are free agents from their team, they're already going way above $300 million in payroll. So it really doesn't matter. And I just don't understand the fact that if the Mets don't sign Bassett and Walker and they let Nimmo go, which could range anywhere between $75 to $80 million between the three of those guys, that $80 million is going to be spent. Yeah, it might be on some other players, but there is no doubt that the Mets are going to spend at least $100 million, if not more, this offseason. So I don't know why Mike Puma, again, likes to rattle the Mets fans and starts. You had to see the comments on him. People got worried. People got scared. People were bitching and moaning. Listen, guys, the Mets are going to spend money. Again, it might be a snail's pace. It might not be the exact players you might want, but they're going to spend money. And we'll get into the rumors that we heard, which is another stupid rumor that another reporter said. And I mean, it's not rocket science to realize that the Mets are interested in this player. So once again, take these reporters with a grain of salt. You know, guys like John Morosi, the national guys are a little bit different because they don't try to rattle one fan base. They're a little bit more even keel with that stuff. But these New York reporters are just something else. So let's get right into the rumors that we heard about the Mets, and then we'll get into more about around baseball for the other fans that are in this stream right now. So once again, guys, don't forget to hit on that like button. We got over 120 likes yesterday. Let's try for 150 tonight. And also, if you're new to the channel, say what's up. And if you subscribe to the channel, please let me know where you're from and what team you are a fan of. So once again, reporters, and I believe it was John Heyman who tweeted this out, saying that the Mets have been showing a lot of interest in Carlos Rodon. Congratulations. It didn't take a lot of research to realize that Carlos Rodon is on the Mets radar. That's common sense. The fact that, one, it's a backup plan for Jacob deGrom, and two, it might just be Jacob deGrom and Carlos Rodon, depending on what else the Mets do to fill out their rotation. So obviously, they're interested in Carlos Rodon. If the Mets are not interested in Carlos Rodon, then they're not doing their due diligence, and Epler should be fired tonight. I mean, it's just simple. Like, it's not that hard to figure out. But one thing that also popped up a couple of hours ago is that the Mets are interested in left-hander who pitched for the Dodgers last year, Andrew Heaney. And I know Met fans are not going to be getting excited and not buying season tickets if the Mets happen to sign Andrew Heaney. I think people look too far into that. People in the comments are talking about David Peterson. Andrew Heaney has nothing to do with David Peterson. All right. But I think a lot of Met fans fall short of, especially now when they know that the owner has a lot of money. They just think that they can just get everybody that is name-worthy and put them on the team. The big reason why the Mets were so good in the first half without Jacob deGrom and with the injury with Scherzer was because of the depth they got in the offseason. And Andrew Heaney, one, would be a depth piece for the rotation, but would also be a possibility in the bullpen as well. He was basically a Swiss Army knife for the Dodgers last year. He pitched really well. He started a lot, but he also was in the bullpen a lot. And you have to look at the fact of depth, not just, he might be a big part of this rotation or this bullpen. That's not the case. And then people think that he was going to jump over on the roster with David Peterson, which makes no sense. Even if the Mets sign him, don't go crazy. It's about depth here. Injuries happen. Listen, the more lefties the Mets can get that could possibly help this bullpen is a plus. This was a huge problem last year. And there's no doubt that the Mets need lefties in his bullpen. Again, this bullpen is going to look a lot different than last year. I don't think the Mets are going to bring back Ottavino. I think it's about 50-50 they're going to bring back Seth Lugo. Who knows about Trevor May? I doubt he's going to come back. This whole bullpen is going to be, especially the 6th, 7th, and 8th quote-unquote guys in this bullpen are going to be drastically different. And you're going to hear names like Andrew Heaney. You're going to hear guys that probably have a 3.5 ERA that might have not been necessarily great last year, but is still an option considering the fact that the Mets need a lot of arms in his bullpen. So don't go crazy that, oh my God, Andrew Heaney is going to take David Peterson's spot. That's unrealistic. But guess what? There was a few people this year like, Trevor Williams, that every Mets fan could not wait to get rid of and wondered why he was still part of this team this year. And every time he got a spot start, he pitched amazing. And anytime they needed him in long relief, he pitched amazing. So Trevor Williams was basically the all-star of the pitching staff last year, considering the fact that anytime the Mets called him, I was in Philadelphia in August when Trevor Williams got the spot start. And he only got a 1-day notice. He pitched very well. And it continues to think that just because you don't think this guy is good doesn't mean they're not going to be good for you that next year. You just don't know that. And not saying that Andrew Heaney is going to be, pitch to a 2 ERA and be one of the best bullpen arms on the Mets. It's just more about depth, because you've seen what happened this year if Scherzer goes down a couple of weeks. When DeGrom didn't come back until the second half. You needed those guys, right? When McGill went down, we had pitchers that we never thought would sniff the starting rotation because of injuries. So it's more about depth than anything else. And you always need depth. That's why, for Andrew Heaney could make the Mets roster, but he might be one of those guys that might be long relief and might make a spot start here and there if one of the pitchers might be, dealing with something, a blister or something like that. He'll fill in. He's going to be the left-handed Trevor Williams, and I think you have to look at it that way. He's not taking David Peterson's spot. Everybody wants to just give David Peterson a rotation spot. Can we see? Could we make these guys earn it? I hate continuing to give guys who earned nothing in their career a starting rotation spot, and then you you count on him and you trust him, and then when you don't go out to get a player or a pitcher and say, oh, we got David Peterson, and then he doesn't do well, what is your backup plan? So let's not just give Tyler McGill a spot in the rotation. Let's not give David Peterson a spot in this rotation. They've earned nothing, right? As soon as Tyler McGill got the nod in the rotation and opening day start, throwing harder than he ever had in his career, he gets hurt. So everybody who just loves Tyler McGill, could he remain healthy an entire year before we go crazy? And David Peterson, the same thing. You know, he'll have one really good start and then he can't get anybody out in another start. So let's not go crazy like David Peterson is the next, you know, coming of Johan Santana, because he probably ain't. He's probably a fourth starter at best at this moment. So once again, guys, Day 2 Free Agent Frenzy right here on the channel. Make sure you hit on that like button. We're going to try to get to 150 likes today. We had well over 250 people in the stream, and that is pretty damn good, and I appreciate it every single day. I don't care if you're not a Mets fan. Obviously, this is a Mets channel. We are talking a lot of Mets, but we are going to go throughout the league once again, just like we did yesterday. So if you know people that like to watch baseball content, share the channel on your social media pages. Spread the word. This channel is a free forum for everybody, right? We gotta join. We are a community, even though most times we don't like each other, right? But it is a community. It's a passionate community, and it also is important to communicate to other fans, because sometimes people get laser focused on just their team, and you kind of miss out on all the things that are happening that are important around the league. And, you know, when there's more parity in the league, there's more fan bases that enjoy the game and be passionate about their team. So it is the off season. We all going to talk crap during the season. It's just what baseball fans do. I think that's the best part about baseball. That's why I love going to road games, not just because I can talk crap. I mean, that's fun and all, but it's just the experience of not being in your ballpark when, you know, a strikeout is not cheered by 30, 40, 50,000 of your own fans. It's fun that way. So, you know, I appreciate all the fans that are not Mets fans, even though I will get on you during the season, but it does come down to the fact that we love the same sport, and that's important. So let's get into the rest of the news. There hasn't really been much, to be honest with you, and, you know, I still am predicting that somebody is going to sign. A decent to big free agent is going to sign by the end of the week. I just have that feeling like the Trey Turner market has developed. The Jacob deGrom market has developed. The Carlos Rodon market has started to develop as well. Aaron Judge market, everybody probably knows who the market is. To me, it's the Giants and the Yankees. You know, today, John Morosi said on the MLB Network that the Mets met with Aaron Judge's representatives. Again, I'd rather have the Mets do their due diligence just in case. I'd rather them speak to every free agent than speak to only a certain few. I think it's important to get a vibe, important to get an understanding of what every player is looking for, because you never know when you're going to have to backtrack. You know, if the Mets wake up tomorrow and Brandon Nimmo signs with the Rockies, well, now the Mets might have to pivot. Maybe they might be more involved in the Aaron Judge sweepstakes, knowing that Brandon Nimmo's off the board. We don't know that. And I think that's important as well, because I think the outfield market is going to move rather quickly. You know, you got a couple of guys other than Aaron Judge that could potentially be an important part of many teams. You got Andrew Benintendi, you got Brandon Nimmo, obviously Aaron Judge. There's a lot of guys out there that you can look at. You know, Michael Conforto is out there. You know, it seems like Michael Conforto is going to get a one-year deal from some team. And we talked about Michael Conforto yesterday about being back with the Mets. And I know a lot of Mets fans can't stand Michael Conforto, which is hilarious, because if you throw Michael Conforto in this lineup, he'll probably have, if not the second most home runs, he'll probably have the third most home runs if you look at the lineup from last year. So, you know what? Michael Conforto would have been very welcomed last year to put behind Pete Alonso, considering the fact that everybody actually sucked behind Pete Alonso, and anybody that we needed to trust, Davis, Smith, Cano, Vogelback, Ruff, were all garbage. I mean, I could probably predict that Michael Conforto could have had a better year than all of them. And people, you know what it is? People have a narrow mindset. You don't see Michael Conforto for a full year, and you just look at the 2021 season and be like, wow, he was terrible. Well, yeah, he was, but that doesn't mean that he's still not, he's still in the prime of his career. I think Met fans should take him back and welcome him. I'm not saying, you should, give him a standing ovation, but it won't be the end of the world with that. So it's good to always keep all options open, because the worst, I can assure you, if you lose Brandon Nimmo and you bring back Michael Conforto, you throw Marte to center field, it's not the end of the world. It's not like, we have a guy who's a complete scrub. This isn't, this isn't a 200 hitter. You know what I'm saying? In his career, he's 260, 270 hitter, guy who hit 20 plus home runs. So we will see. But I will get to the comments. So if you want to talk about anything, just again, guys, just like yesterday, sometimes I miss your comments when they're rolling in. It's going to probably get a little bit more busier over the last hour or two. Again, I'll be with you until 7 o'clock tonight. So if I miss your comment, don't think I'm just ignoring you. Just if you want to put up a super chat, you can, so I can actually see it, because sometimes I do miss it, and I do apologize for that. MB, what's up? I think by this weekend, teams will test the waters. I think maybe Andrew Haney or Tyler Anderson this weekend. See, I put that on Twitter about Tyler Anderson. Andrew Haney, again, is a depth piece. He can be a left-hander out of the pen. He can be this depth piece for the starting rotation. Tyler Anderson, I actually like. He pitched very well for the Dodgers, and he pitched against the Mets at Citi Field, and the Mets had a hard time hitting him. And he doesn't throw hard, but he's quirky, and I think sometimes you need that type of guy, like Chris Bassett was to this rotation. When he got Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer throwing gas, and then Chris Bassett's throwing his 93 miles an hour with his 75 miles an hour curveball, it throws off a lot of hitters, especially when it's the same series. So I think you always need that quirky type of guy, and he's a lefty. I think the big problem last year with the Mets was that they were throwing righty after righty after righty. Every team knew that if they had enough lefties, they're going to put as many lefties in the lineup as possible. And I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but I always liked that lefty in the rotation to mix things up in the middle of that rotation. And I like Tyler Anderson. Look, I'm not saying Tyler Anderson is a world beater, but he's pretty good. I'm going to check his stats really quick. I checked it yesterday, but I forgot to mention it. Let me see. Let's see his stats. I know he had a pretty good year. It wasn't bad. So, yeah. Last year, he had a 4.3 WAR, 15.5 ERA, wins-loss, and 2.57 ERA. He pitched in 30 games, so he was healthy. He gave up, he played in a pitcher's ballpark, which Citi Field still is. He gave up 14 home runs, 178 innings. Not bad. It's really good. Really freaking good. And he was an all-star for the first time in his career. I mean, he had a really good year. And, that's an option that the Mets have to look at. He was in the National League, so it's not like if he was in the American League pitching under a 3 ERA, you'd be like, well, okay, maybe we have to take a step back because the American League was not that good. But he was in the NL West that had a pretty couple of good teams. You had a 500 team and a little under 500 team in the Giants. You also had the Padres that decided to get a lot of, players at the trade deadline. That's not a bad pickup. And you know what? If you replace Tyler Anderson with Taijuan Walker, if that would be the case if the Mets do that, if they do that, it's kind of a little bit better of a situation because, yeah, Walker is younger and Anderson is 32 years old, probably going to be 33 by 2023. So, I wouldn't mind bringing Tyler Anderson in, especially he'll probably cost a little bit less than Taijuan Walker because of his age. And, I could see Tyler Anderson being like what Chris Bassett was to the Mets. People, kind of like, were like, oh, Chris Bassett's a good pitcher, but yet he was the ace of the staff of the A's. And we all know the A's always have some good pitching. Bassett was the ace of the staff, and you were slotting him in as a number 3 for the New York Mets. So that's something that you have to look at as well. But Tyler Anderson is an option as well. Those type of pitchers are going to take a little later to probably sign. Andrew Heaney might sign a little bit earlier, especially, because he's the guy that somebody might use just the key. All right, we have him just in case we lose out on this guy, and that guy. So that's important as well. MB, thank you for the super chat. But I think Tyler Anderson is a solid option for the Mets. Daniel, I think too many Mets fans are just falling over each other for Jacob deGrom. Again, I'm not going to say that I wouldn't be upset that Jacob deGrom left. But again, it's a possibility that Jacob deGrom can get 5 years, whatever amount of money from the Texas Rangers. I can't tell you with a straight face that if the Mets give Jacob deGrom 5 years at whatever dollar, because the dollar amount doesn't matter, it's the years. I can't say with a straight face that I would be necessarily happy, because I don't want to go into a season where every time this guy goes on the mound, this guy's going to get hurt. And again, I think he's still a really good pitcher. I don't think he can be as dominant as he was in his Cy Young years, but he'll be really damn good. I don't know if the Mets are going to go 5 years. I think the Rangers will. And for all the Brave fans that might be in the chat right now, listen up. The Braves are not outbidding the Mets or the Rangers, so forget that. Unless Jacob deGrom is going to take a pay cut, which I doubt, he's not going to the Atlanta Braves, right? Worry about Swanson and leave Jacob deGrom alone, because he'll probably go to Texas or the Mets before he goes to the Braves. So with Jacob deGrom, I think the Mets would love to get him on a 3-year deal. I think that's unrealistic. I don't think that's possible, because I think the Rangers would at least go to a 4th year. Now, if contracts are similar, now you got to remember about taxes as well. Texas, it's a no tax state. So if the Rangers give him 4 years, $200 million, the Mets will probably have to go to 4 years, $225, just to narrow that tax bracket, because you can't give $200 million, just like you can't give the same contract as the Rangers and expect Jacob deGrom to take it when it's not necessarily the same contract. It looks the same, but because of tax purposes, he could probably still go to the Rangers. And I do think the Mets are going to make when the Mets are going to make the competitive offer, I don't know. Would the Mets give an offer first and see what Jacob deGrom does? I'm pretty sure that the Mets would give a 3-year deal. We're probably around the ballpark at around $135 to $150 million. Again, the money is not the issue. It's the years that are the issue for Jacob deGrom. And that's where we have to look at with the Mets. So I think they'll start off with a first contract offer of 3 years. I'll say 140. Again, I'm not a mathematician, but I think that's pretty. Let me just say 143. That's $46.6 million. That's about $3 million over what Scherzer got per year. So you're already giving him the most money out of any starter in Major League Baseball. And at the moment, it would be the highest salary in Major League Baseball until probably Aaron Judge signs at around probably $47 to $48 million, which is crazy. So we should see the fact that if the Mets offer 3 years, 145 or whatever it might be to Jacob deGrom, obviously he'll take that to other teams and say, hey, can you do better? If the Rangers go 4 years, 200, once again, the Mets probably going to have to go about $20 to $25 million more in total contract just to make up for the no state tax in Texas. So that's where the Mets are probably going to have a little bit of an issue, because, again, if the Rangers go 5 years, kiss Jacob deGrom goodbye. All right? Take off that jersey. whatever bobblehead you might have. You know, it's cool to have the Cy Young bobbleheads and all that fun stuff, but he's probably going to Texas at that point. The Mets are not giving. Now, I do think the Mets could give a 4-year deal with a mutual option for a 5th year. If the guarantee contract for the Rangers is 5 years, well, what are you going to do? Will you go that extra year? I don't know if the Mets are going to do that. Got to remember, guys, the Mets know Jacob deGrom better than any other team in Major League Baseball. They know about his nagging injuries. They know about all his medicals. They know all his history. And if they don't feel that he's going to remain healthy for the remainder or at least most of that contract, you can't fault the Mets on that. Again, it's not Steve Cohen is not worried about the money. He wants to win. And I think the deferred payments of money with the Diaz contract shows you he's in win now mode because he can spend more money. And I think that's the most important thing when it comes to the fact that Jacob deGrom might not actually want to be here anymore. But it comes down to money and years. That's just exactly what happens. So I'm just looking at Twitter right now just to see if anything's coming down. I see MB. I saw your comment right now. Mets are in heavy negotiations with Carlos Rodon. They could sign him soon. Per source, not a fake source. Again, if that's true, that's great. But I haven't seen that. But I'm looking at Twitter now. Let's see. Well, Rocky, let's be honest. Are the Mets more closer to winning the World Series or the Rangers, right? I don't think the players nowadays are necessarily all about winning. And that's not saying that they don't want to win. I don't think it's priority number one. Priority number one is all about the money. All right. That's why there is no player taking a hometown discount to stay with their team. Because if that's the case, it would be happening a lot more. So let's see. See if there's anything going on. Let's see. Yeah, I don't see that information. But again, you never know. And if you're listening to Cotton and Roberts, Pete Alonso is on Cotton and Roberts right now. If you want to listen in, he won I think he won the Silver Slugger or he won the Jackie Robinson award or something like that. So I am also looking into getting a channel t-shirt as well. If anybody is interested, let me know. If you got my email, just email me and I'll let you know the details and everything like that. I'm trying again. I'm still trying to look at a company that actually does good quality. I don't want crap quality, honestly. So, I don't want no crap quality where you wash it once and it's peeling off. So there was a couple of places that I ordered from a shirt just to see the quality, and they're not good. So I'm not making anybody spend any money if the quality is not good, because I'm one, you guys know, I got a ton of different Mets t-shirts from all over, from Major League Baseball shop, from the 7 line, from all over the place, Barstool, athlete logos, all those companies, everything like that. So I'm big on different type of shirts, and I'm big on quality, and I don't want anybody to spend $20+ on a shirt that is gonna peel off. I feel bad. So I'm gonna work on that, and as soon as I do, I'll have that up on the channel rather quickly. And B, yeah, I figured it was a fake source. Again, with Twitter now, with the verifications, that anybody can basically pay $8 and get verified. It's kind of, and people are making, burner accounts and troll accounts, where I think I saw one that said John Heyman with 2 Y's, and they tweeted something about, was it about Aaron Judge, or it was a Met or a Yankee? I forgot who it was that they signed a big deal, and it looked like a deal that you can probably see, and people went insane too. You see the 2 Y's, and you're like, uh-oh. So yeah, and B, I know we all get caught with that, so just be careful with that. Daniel, I appreciate the comment. Yeah, Ken. Yeah, he has a lot of charities. He's doing another event with Cotton and Roberts, I think, in the offseason with the the comedy thing that Carton and Roberts have done the last 2 times, and Pete Alonso has been a part of it both times. I think it was a charity for something with 9/11 with the I think it was something with 9/11. So that's also obviously cool. So, and by the way, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans today. I forgot to say that. That's my fault. I should have said that in the beginning of the stream. But so we are in day 2 of MLB Free Agent Frenzy. If you want to call it a frenzy at this point, again, I still think what MLB baseball should do, instead of making yesterday the opening of free agency, what they should do, they should allow all the qualifying offers that got 10 days to either decline or accept. And Chris Bassett did decline the qualifying offer, so he already declined it. I'm trying to figure out what baseball should do to get more intrigue with the offseason. You know, you got a lot of months with the offseason. You know, would they want to like the NBA, like the NFL, something like that? As soon as they want a free agency, everybody starts signing. You know, I think the big thing is the winter meetings, and I think they should make that like a 1 week signing period or a 2 week signing period where everybody signs. But the problem is with that is the fact that if you wait until December, you know, do you not allow any trades or anything like that? What they should do, they should be able to allow trades and acceptance of qualifying offers, and maybe what they should do after the qualifying decline or accept from players is over, which is next Sunday, they should, from that day all the way until the winter meetings, there should be that 1 month where you can only players have to sign within that period. If they don't, I don't know what the penalty would be, or it would just be something that, I don't know if you could just make it mandatory that players have to sign by that date, the last day of the winter meetings. I think it would be more fun where, you know, within 30 days, your team is going to be most likely set up and more teams can actually have more trades. I think that's a good idea to get something wrong. They have to do something. They got to do like a 1 month sign-in period. And, you know, if you want to allow trades from the day after the World Series until the first day of free agent signing, they should do that. I think it'll be a lot more fun. And, you know, you won't have streams like just, you know, having guesses and your own opinions. I think it's important to get the fans excited. You know, nobody wants to wait until January into February and you don't even know what most of your roster looks like. I think it sucks. But we'll see what happens, right? I still think somebody's going to sign by Sunday. I don't know why. I just feel that way. You know, if you notice, there hasn't even been a lot of rumors rolling about today, mostly. And that's funny because anytime when things are really, really quiet, something happens. You know, just like when the Mets signed Canna, Marte, and Escobar, it was basically like a ghost town on Twitter. Like, you didn't hear nothing. And then all of a sudden, late at night, 3 signings happened for the Mets. So I think you're going to see something like that. And it's been extremely quiet before. You know, even nationally, you didn't really hear nothing. Yesterday, you heard a couple of things. But even today, besides the Carlos Rodon, which is a waste of Twitter space to put up there that the Mets are interested, obviously, Andrew Haney is not like a big-time rumor. And you haven't heard nothing else. You didn't hear about Trey Turner, Judge, Nimmo, Jacob deGrom. You haven't heard nothing. So it's kind of odd, but it's very quiet. So maybe we'll see something over the next hour and a half. We'll see. MB, Mets have called Mike Zunino camp and interest Zach Plesac trade maybe. I don't know if the Mets are going to go that route. You know, if they're going to do a trade for a starting pitcher, I don't think you're going to see a trade for the Mets pitching wise, starting pitcher wise, until free agents start going off the board. Like if the Mets lose out on Rodon or Jacob deGrom, then a trade is more likely. But at the moment, I don't think that's actually going to happen just yet. George, thank you, buddy. I do appreciate it. Christian, a member of Talking Mets and Rob, what's up? Yeah, Christian, I remember, like the 90s, again, I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s when, I peaked with baseball with like my fandom and like it was live or die with baseball and the Mets. Yeah, I agree. The 90s for sure, it seemed like everybody signed by Christmas. Nobody wanted to deal with contracts or trades for the most part after Christmas or during Christmas. They just wanted to let everybody enjoy their holidays and everything like that. But this is the way it is right now. Yeah, Jay, Kershaw did sign back with the Dodgers. I don't think it's official yet, but he's coming back. So yeah, I don't know why it's been, I think it's money now. I think, a lot of teams are hesitant to give a tremendous amount of money to players, especially injury-prone players. Daniel, that's pretty easy. How did I become a Mets fan? Well, my dad was a Mets fan, and I kind of just grew up. Like, I think my parents showed me a picture when I was like not even 2 years old with me in a Mets outfit with a big blow up Mets baseball, and I think I don't even think I was 2 yet. So I kind of was indoctrinated into the Mets world. I blame my dad every day. Don't think for a second I don't. Every day. I'm like, Dad, I could have been a Yankees fan, it would have been a lot easier. But you know what? My big fan of when baseball was my life was the about mid 90s to mid 2000s. That's like my peak. This shirt is not just because I like the shirt. This was my era growing up, the black jerseys. So it's kind of interesting the fact that it would actually be fun. So yeah, my dad was a Met fan, and I just, he was a Met fan. It was just simple, But sometimes you don't really choose. You kind of just fall in line, so to speak, and then yeah. But MB Jose Urena signed. Okay, that just happened. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know if I see that. MB. Isn't Jose Urena under contract though with the Dodgers? I could be wrong, but I don't see that. I don't see the MB. You might have got caught with another burner account. Yeah, I don't see that. But all right, so there we go, guys. Yeah, David, I talked about this yesterday. If you didn't join me yesterday, I said that I think Trey Turner is going to be the first big free agent name off the board. I just feel like his market is developing rather quickly. There's the Mets, the Phillies, the Cubs, maybe the Orioles, possibly. There's a couple of teams that already developed that market. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to start hearing rumors about possible offers to Trey Turner rather soon. I think Trey Turner is going to sign by the end of the week. I think he is not going to waste any time. He doesn't want to stay on the West Coast. He wants to be on the East Coast. So mathematically, you're basically taking half the teams off the board, even if they have the money. Look at the eastern part of the country, Baltimore. You can look at the Braves as well, even though I don't think that's a possibility. I think they're going to re-sign Swanson. But look at teams on the East Coast, the Orioles, the Braves, the Mets, the Phillies. I doubt the Red Sox, but again, who knows about Xander Bogaerts? So, the East Coast is where Trey Turner is going to end up. It's just a matter of where on the East Coast. Daniel, if I was the GM, I would go like this. I would do everything I can within reason to sign Jacob deGrom, but if I will not go that 50 year on Jacob deGrom. So I would go 4 years, $200 million. If he doesn't want that, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to sign Carlos Rodon. I'm going to do everything I possibly can to sign Trey Turner, because I said this yesterday and I'll say it again for the new people on this channel. The Mets offseason evolves around Trey Turner, not around Brandon Nimmo, not around Jacob deGrom, Trey Turner. Trey Turner is dynamic. The big reason why the Mets struggled in September was the offense. It wasn't the pitching. It wasn't the bullpen. It wasn't the starting rotation. It was the lineup. Marte went down, and they were basically ice cold. Nimmo sucked. Lindor struggled. Marte wasn't in the lineup. Alonso was okay, but not great. Escobar was the only one hitting on that team. Vogelback, rough were garbage. There was no Bacana when came back down to earth after his hot streak in August. Everybody struggled. You need guys that are dynamic, that will always put a good at bat together. Trey Turner doesn't strike out a lot. He's close to a 300 hitter. He can hit you 20 home runs. He can steal you 40 bases. And he's a great defender no matter where you put him. That's a guy that's too dynamic to pass up. Okay, MB, cool. Yeah, Ken, I agree. I don't think, look, it's not even about, well, it was about his performance against Atlanta and the Padres in the playoffs. What I didn't like was his comments before the Padre game in the playoffs, where he says that he was shell-shocked by New York, wasn't expecting this much pressure. You know, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said that he wasn't expecting this type of passion, or he was shell-shocked. And it took him a long time to get comfortable, if you want to call it that. But again, in the two biggest games of the year, he came up very small. Again, he was our most consistent pitcher, and I think a lot of people thought, hey, there's no doubt you got to sign Chris Bassett. He was the one that stayed healthy in this rotation. Anytime the Mets, he was basically our ace in the month during that West Coast trip, because Scherzer and deGrom was out. He was the ace. He didn't pitch like an ace. He wasn't great, but he was all right. And he was always consistent. When you needed a long outing from a pitcher to save your bullpen, he'll give you 7 innings. And that's what I actually like. So it's important to know that, you know, it's not just about looking at the stats for Chris Bassett and say, okay, the Mets should sign him. It makes sense. Are you willing to pay him? Because he declined the qualifying offer of $19.6 million. He's going to get north of 22, probably between 21 and $25 million per year. Are you willing to give him 3 years, $85 million? It's a lot of money for a guy who is probably going to be a third starter and who came up very small in big spots. Kenya, I think he was. I think he shied away from the big performance, in my opinion. Well, Danny, I mean, for all we know, he might do that. I don't know. You know, he did it with Scherzer. You know, again, Epler was talking to Scherzer, and it didn't seem likely. You know, remember, we heard rumors that the Mets were trying to offer Scherzer a contract, but Scherzer wasn't necessarily really, he wanted to go back to the Dodgers. And Steve Cohen got in this mix and said, hey, Max, what do you want? Max said what he wanted, and he was signed. So I think that can happen with Trey Turner. It can happen with Jacob deGrom. It can happen with Aaron Judge. You know, it could happen with anybody. Again, if Steve Cohen wants a player, there's about a 95% chance he'll get him. It's just that simple. It's just a matter of what we don't know exactly what the Mets want. And obviously, it's all speculation when it comes to us. You know, we know everybody has their own idea of what the Mets should do, right? I want Trey Turner. I have no problem bringing up back Jacob deGrom, but I also want Carlos Rodon. If you do Trey Turner, Rodon, deGrom, and Josh Bell as our DH, I'm okay with that. If you want to give Beatty the opportunity to fight it off with Escobar at third base, you want to do try out Escobar Alvarez to see if he can win the catcher's job, I'll do all that. I think Trey Turner could absolutely make this team 100% different from last year. It's a different dynamic. Urza, I said about Haney earlier. If the Mets get him, I think people look too far into it, especially Met fans, when it came to the fact of people think that it would be Haney over Peterson. Haney is going to be a depth piece. He's either going to make spot starts in a rotation or be a reliever, a long man in the bullpen. That's the way you have to look at Andrew Haney. It wouldn't be a bad signing. David, did you hear about Ronald Acuna Jr. might be getting traded? If the I don't know about that. If the Braves do that, I mean that's on them. I feel like with the with the Braves, I think I don't know. Acuna, he was battling that knee injury. He didn't have a great year last year. The knee clearly bothered him. He's not the same defensive right fielder like he was before the injury. There was a lot of times when he couldn't get to a ball down the line or in the gap, couldn't cut it off. I don't know what is another year after the injury is going to help him. We'll see. But if the Braves trade him, they'll get a lot back. But didn't he sign that big contract with the Braves, that extension? So, somebody's got to take on that contract. So if somebody trades for Ronald Acuna, you're probably not going to get a lot back. So is it worth trading Ronald Acuna? Why? What are you really going to get back? You're going to get prospects back, but you're not going to get the amount of prospects back if he was still under his rookie deal. So I think it's kind of odd if the Braves would trade him. Yeah, exactly. Bassett was a solid number 3. Again, the two biggest times we needed him, he didn't come through. Now, can he just look at those 2 starts and say and not look at the rest of his year? You could, because if the Mets want to go far into the playoffs, you need pitchers that can step up in big games. Now, it doesn't mean Bassett didn't do it this year. He can't do it next year. We'll see. But I don't think the Mets are going to bring back Chris Bassett unless it's on a deal that they seem worthy. Daniel, I hope so. No, Rocky, it's not. Cohen's not going to disappoint Mets fans, but I think Mets fans are going to be too unrealistic about, if Cohen doesn't do something that a lot of Mets fans want, they're going to be disappointed, right? People were disappointed. Yes, the Mets spent over $100 million last year in the offseason, but Mets fans were pissed off about the bullpen. We didn't get Chafin. We didn't get a couple of arms that we could have got to help out the bullpen that we knew wasn't going to be great. So there's going to be a player that we thought the Mets should get and go somewhere else, and it's going to piss off a lot of people. So, Daniel, yes, I do think that's the issue. I think that's what the Mets, the reason why Jacob deGrom's agent put that out there that he's interested in the Rangers, because Chris Young, the GM of the Rangers, said we are gonna spend money and we're really looking. We're gonna be aggressive after starting pitching. So why wouldn't any agent of a pitcher that's any good say, "Hey, we're interested in the Rangers"? I think that's a little bit of a ploy with the deGrom's representatives to say that, to force the hand of maybe a 4th year from the Mets. That's possible. Bravo, that wasn't me. That was a Brave fan saying that. I was just reacting to it. I don't think it makes sense. Like, even if he had a good year and the Braves want to trade him for whatever reason, you gave him that extension. That means a team has to take on that contract, which means the Braves are not going to get as much back because of that contract. So it doesn't make sense for a team to give you much of anything when they're going to take on that 13-year contract. It just doesn't make sense. Well, Danny, I think that's what the Mets are probably going to offer first. but I think they're willing to go to a fourth year if they have to. Yeah, Jesus, I said this earlier about Tyler Anderson. He had a really good year. Under a 3 ERA, had a really, really good year with the Dodgers. I wouldn't mind giving him a look and giving him a couple of year deal. He's 32 years old, going to be 33. Had a good year with the Dodgers. Why not bring him in? You know, these are options that the Mets can look at, like Carlos Rodon, like Tyler Anderson. Again, none of them are Jacob deGrom. Don't mistake me for that. But they're solid pitchers. And if you look at the playoffs this year alone, how many pitchers had an ace and a number 2 starter that was completely dominant? Not many. You had one guy that was pretty damn good and a number 2 pitcher that was good. That's the way it was throughout the playoffs. The teams that went far in the playoffs hit and pitched well in the bullpen, specifically the Astros, who had under a 1 ERA in the playoffs. Again, it's more about, I think you got to solidify the bullpen. Get a strong bullpen and get a solid rotation. You don't need like everybody thought, once the Mets get into the playoffs, that rotation is going to be hard to beat. Well, how did that work out? Right? We went too hard after just thinking, Carrasco's a number 5 starter. It's the best rotation in baseball. Yeah, on paper. But you also have to look at the fact that it didn't come down to just not pitching well. It came down to hitting as well. And I do think the fact that having a really good bullpen, to good to great bullpen, means a lot more, because a lot of these pitchers are not going 7 or 8 innings anymore. You're going to throw most of your pitchers 6 innings. So look what happened this year, right, with Jacob deGrom. How many times did the Mets take Jacob deGrom early saying, we got to save him for the playoffs. We can't get him hurt. We got to save him for the playoffs. So now you're using your 6, 7, 8 relievers that, for the most part, the Mets didn't trust this year. It was like picking a name out of a hat for the bullpen. So looking at that, give me solid pitchers that can give you 7 innings every now and then. Can go 8. That's why I wouldn't mind Chris Bassitt coming back, because when you needed him to go 7 or 8 innings, he did. Like, I think there was like a 7-game stretch period that Chris Bassitt went at least 7 innings. Like, that's something that you can't get from a lot of pitchers. And I do think it's important to get good quality pitchers that can give you length when you need it. And I don't necessarily think giving deGrom $45 to $50 million per year and the Mets are going to baby him throughout the season. Because when they needed him to go longer in that Braves game in Atlanta, they took him out. And it's amazing to me. Like, I don't want to pay a pitcher outrageous amount of money, and every game you're going to baby him, and the excuse is we got to save him for the playoffs. Well, how about making the playoffs? Because the division is rather useless at this point if you haven't looked at Major League Baseball's playoff scenario the last couple of years. It's who gets hot in the playoffs now. It's not who wins the division and who looks like the best team. And you have to take that into perspective as well. Again, the National League is pretty damn good, but let's be honest. The Giants are probably going to be getting better. The Padres already got a stacked lineup. We'll see what they do. The Dodgers are already a good team. The Central, who knows? A lot of teams are in changing around a lot. The Cardinals have a lot to do. The Cubs are looking to spend money. The Brewers looking like they're going to be a bad team again since they're going to trade everybody. Most likely Corbin Burns might be on the block. So you got to look at the fact that the NL East is going to be 3 teams deep. Very simple, right? Now that you don't play your division rivals 19 times anymore because of the new balance of schedule, you play everybody in Major League Baseball, you can have 3 teams that can win 100 games because of the fact that you play more teams outside of your division So it's hard for 3 teams to win 100 games, but not anymore, right? Because of the fact that you play less games in your division means you can't beat up on one team. That's why it's going to be different this year when I think we play 13 times each team in the division, if I'm not mistaken, and you play everybody else around the league. So there's a lot to look at when it comes to, I think the National League is going to dominate the American League when it comes to playing them, just like they did this year. So I think it's important to look at the fact that the parity and the balanced schedule is going to make this division very interesting because of the fact that you don't play each other a lot in the division anymore. You don't play them 19 times. And now you're going to be playing a lot of teams. Like, I can't wait. Let me play the AL Central. I can't wait. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's go. I want to kill the Royals. I want to kill the Tigers. So, the White Sox suck. It's stuff like that. So I'm just going to check Twitter right now. Once again, guys, I'll be with you until 7 o'clock tonight, and they've got another hour. Nothing's really been going on baseball-wise. Frenzy is kind of like not really a frenzy at all, but we're here to talk about baseball, and we can make our own decisions and plans of what the Mets will want to do. And once again, guys, if you're a fan of another team, don't hesitate to give a question about your team. I mean, why not? Let's see. Anything going on? Nothing, man. Jeez. It's quiet, man. I'm telling you, quiet means something's going to happen. It just feels that way. I feel like something's going to happen. Let's see. Just checking something out. All right, cool. All right. Hey, Sean, a member of Talking Metro Rob. How you doing? Yeah, Bryce, the MLB postseason, offseason gets boring. It does. But you know what? Every day you wake up, you go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you check Twitter. Did anything happen? And that's the anticipation fans get all the time. MB, no. I don't know. I'm not predicting that, but it's rather quiet. Like, I don't see any beat reporters even spreading rumors like they love to do. Andy Martino hasn't even put anything up. Baseball Night in New York's coming on, so maybe we'll see if there's any information that he puts on right there. But we'll see. But again, it's rather quiet. And again, last year, it seemed like anytime the day was quiet with rumors throughout the night, something happens. And I'm not predicting it, but it feels like that. So Baseball Night in New York is on. They're talking about Chris Bassett, who declined the qualifying offer. He had a good year, 15-9, 3.42 ERA, 8.27 strikeouts per nine. Not a bad year. But he is a number 3. Yeah, Ken, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that. The fact that great pitchers, Nola, Scherzer, Verlander, all across the league in the playoffs pitched really bad, right? Freed didn't pitch good. Strider didn't pitch good. Guys that you expect to pitch well didn't pitch bad. So, we are killing Chris Bassett, but out of all those pitchers, he's the number 3, and every other one is an ace, or at least the number 2. So, again, I wouldn't be mad if the Mets bring back Chris Bassett. He's a solid pitcher. You're not expecting him to be the ace. So I'm not worried about that part, but I don't know if the Mets are going to go that route. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We'll see. The Mets need a rotation, so they got to sign somebody. Can I play small forward? Probably not. MB says by Thanksgiving signs will happen. Well, I'd hope so. In what is that? 2 weeks away. I'd hope so. It's exactly 2 weeks away, so or close to 2 weeks away. Yeah, I hope so because that's going to be a very boring month of November, and then we have to wait until the winter meetings to have things happen. So once again, guys, I will be with you until 7 o'clock tonight. Don't forget to please hit on that like button, and if you're new to the channel, just subscribe. Say what's up. Let me know what fan base, what team you're a fan of, and where you're from. I like to know where everybody's from and what team you root for. So I'm just looking at the comments really quick if I missed anything. Let's see. I think I saw all the comments so far. All right, so we're just going to backtrack a little bit and talk a little bit more about the Mets. Again, Mets channel, Mets mostly. But if anything happens, or again, if you're a fan of another team and you want to ask a question or say your opinion of what you think your team should do, bring it up. We need talking points here because of the fact that it's extremely quiet on the rumor front. So, but again, I think, as I said yesterday and again today, I think the Mets offseason evolves around Trey Turner. I don't think there's any question about that. I don't think the Mets can let him go to Philly. Again, if he wants to go there, I doubt he's going to take less money to go to Philly if the Mets give him more. If the Mets want him, I think the Mets can get him. So it's important to realize what this team really needs. Again, the Mets need a new bullpen. There's basically nobody in the bullpen right now besides Diaz and maybe one or two others. The rotation is Scherzer, Carrasco, McGill, and Peterson at the moment. That's not what you need. You can't go into that season with signing, I don't know, Tyler Anderson, and that's your bullpen. Billy, according to the Angels, the Mets, I'm sorry, Shohei Ohtani is not going to get traded. Again, I think that's probably true in this offseason. Maybe at the deadline, maybe. But again, I think this bears well. If the Angels want to be stupid and not trade Shohei Ohtani and get assets, let him keep him the entire year and let him become a free agent. Because if he becomes a free agent, he will be a New York Met in 2024. I almost can guarantee you that. Billy Epler is very close to Shohei Ohtani. Steve Cohen has all the money in the world. If Shohei Ohtani wants to come to New York, he will get paid, and he knows Billy Epler. Again, Billy Epler went above and beyond any other GM. Shohei Ohtani talked about this. I don't know if you listened to his interview when he went back to Japan at the end of the season. He talked about, people were talking about why he chose the Angels, why didn't he go to New York? He said Billy Epler took the time, almost a week and a half, to travel to Japan, meet his family, meet him, and just have a normal conversation and get comfortable with Shohei Ohtani and Billy Epler. So they're very close. That's why when you heard during the playoffs that the Mets were interested in trading for Shohei Ohtani was the fact that Billy Epler is very close to Shohei Ohtani. So that's an option. And listen, if the Angels want to be stupid and not trade him, it benefits the Mets more than anybody. Park Rodon is definitely a big-time suitor for the Mets. Yeah, there was a couple of guys, the Japanese guy. There was a right-handed pitcher that is pretty good. Again, if the Mets, I take flyers on those guys. Again, who the Cubs got? What was the guy's name? I forgot the outfielder. I forgot his name. Yusei Kikuchi, or no, that's the pitcher. I forgot his name. But remember, everybody thought the Mets should get him, and he had an okay year with the Cubs. He wasn't great. He had, his 35 to 40 home runs in Japan ended up being 15, which is not shocking. So who knows what they were talking about. So they're talking about starting pitching for the Mets on Baseball Night in New York. Let's listen up.
This is a guy you team because he's completely embraced that role. He's going to give you innings. He's a great clubhouse guy, chemistry guy. He's smart. He's really smart. He would be perfect to fit in this Mets rotation.
I feel like I'm ready for the free agency primer. Let the games begin. Let's go. But it is a Friday show.
So I think they were talking about Stripling from the Blue Jays being a possibility with the Mets. That's interesting. Yeah, Suzuki. There you go. I couldn't remember the name. You know what? I thought of that name and then I thought it wasn't right. Exactly. So Suzuki, he had an okay year. You know, he wasn't the world, you know, the big bat that everybody was expecting from Japan, right? He was hitting 40 home runs in Japan and barely hit 15. I think it was close to 20, but nothing special. So, you know, you basically got that out of Marte, Escobar, you know, even kind of almost had 20 home runs. So, yeah. I don't really think that's too much of a expectation at this point, but we'll see. When it comes to like, you know, when it comes to, you know, the worst thing that could have happened to the Mets after their 101 win season last year was having all these free agents, unfortunately. You know, if Nimmo was still on the contract and DeGrom was still on the contract, you got enough guys still on this team where you're like, all right, fill in a couple of spots. You know, hey, maybe we can still get Trey Turner. Hey, maybe Rodon could still be in this rotation. We could replace Walker or Bassett. And then you're back to DeGrom, Scherzer, Rodon, which is still a really, really good 1-2-3. And then you can fill out. I would have no problem putting McGill and Peterson as your 4 or 5. You know, Andrew Haney could be a possibility as a depth piece. Maybe the Mets still go get Tyler Anderson and use either McGill or Peterson in the bullpen. So many different things that you can actually look at with that. Again, I still think the Mets and Trey Turner are just a perfect match. I know some say the Phillies are a perfect match, but the Phillies weren't really looking at Trey Turner as much as the Mets were. There was a lot of reports saying that the Mets, since the beginning of last year, knowing that Trey Turner was going to be a free agent, they were having internal talks about him. I think they want him. We'll see. Billy says, how much money will the Mets end up spending? Again, that's a guessing game. I think it'll be at least $100 million. So just do the math there. You know, $100 million. You know, if you re-sign Brandon Nimmo for $20+ million, you know, you sign Rodon for about $20 million. You know, if you sign Jacob deGrom, that's basically like $80 million right there. So that's 3 guys that I think you can actually look at. Trey Turner will probably cost about $30 million, $28 million a year. So there's over $100 million right there. You know, if the Mets come back and get Turner, deGrom, Nimmo, and Rodon, and of course bullpen arms, it's a pretty good offseason. You know, so I think the Mets payroll is going to be north of $325 million, in my opinion. So I'm just looking at Baseball Night in New York to see if they say anything. They're doing that stupid game. I don't care about that. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about that. Let's see. So I'm going to recheck Twitter once again. Again, it's been extremely quiet on the rumor front. Like nothing. Like it's weird. Let's see. What do we got here? All right. Yeah, it's just extremely quiet. Yeah, I just think I honestly think, guys, that I'm telling you, it's just way too quiet. They're talking about Justin Verlander, a better fit for the Mets or the Yankees. I think it'd be a decent fit for any one of those two teams. Again, 1 year, $25 million or so. I don't think that's too much, to worry about. Again, you want to give another aging pitcher another part in this rotation. I do not have a second favorite team. I don't think anybody should have a second favorite team. Would you you look at that one team, like I kind of enjoyed watching the Guardians this year considering the fact that I liked what Jimenez and Rosario did for the Guardians. Obviously because they were Mets, and it's nice to see a young team play very well and almost beat the Yankees. That was pretty cool. So the Guardians were fun to watch. Let's see. David, who's my all-time favorite Met? Ray Ordonez. Not a lot of people would say that, right? You know, I liked Hojo, but he was at the end of his Mets career when I was young. But you know, I just like to say Hojo. At the time, I was really young, so that was pretty cool. But Howard Johnson was one of my guys. But in my prime baseball years, you know, when you're really starting to love the game of baseball and watching the Mets, Ray Ordonez was my guy. Couldn't hit a lick, but was one of the best defensive shortstops in the game. Favorite non-Mets player? That's a good one. I would say Griffey. Griffey was fun to watch. So once again, guys, MLB Free Agent Frenzy Day 2 is basically non-existent. I mean, the only rumors that were bandied about when it came to the Mets was the Mets are showing a lot of interest in Carlos Rodon, which is not surprising, and the Mets are looking at Andrew Heaney as well. That's basically the only thing you've heard in the Mets area, and even around baseball, haven't heard nothing. Again, I haven't seen a baseball reporter tweet in about 6 hours. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, that's why I'm thinking when it's so quiet like that, you know, the calm before the storm. Not saying that 5 guys are going to sign tonight, but I do have a feeling that the fact that when it's quiet like this, something is happening. In a room somewhere, just somewhere. I just feel like that's got, you know, we got to remember, guys, besides Max Scherzer, the Marte, Canna, and Escobar signing happened around 10 o'clock at night. Like, some people were actually didn't even know until they woke up in the morning. All right, Charles from Nassau, Bahamas. That's not a bad place to be right now, I tell you that. Yeah, Jesus, I think it's going to take long for some of the guys. But I still think guys like Rodon, DeGrom, and Trey Turner, their markets are developed. You know the teams that want them. And I think that's why they're probably going to be off the board probably in the next 2 weeks, in my opinion. Urza, Jakarta, Indonesia. Wow, haven't heard that one before. That's cool. So once again, guys, don't forget, if you haven't hit on that like button, please do. Once again, tomorrow, day 3 of Free Agent Frenzy will happen again, 5 p.m., just like today, 5 p.m. Hopefully, we get a lot more information, a little bit more rumors that we can actually go about our business and talk about and maybe get excited about. Even if it's a small sign-in, you have an idea where the Mets going to go. If it's the bullpen or the starting pitching, might make sense as well. But there is a lot to actually, you know, when you look back at the 2021 season, the first half, there wasn't a lot of issues that we had to talk about, right? The Mets were leading in runs at the time. The starting pitching was pretty good. Besides the injuries with DeGrom and Scherzer, the starting pitching was still actually decent and kept the Mets in games. The Mets were scoring a lot of runs at that time. The bullpen was a little shaky, but still okay. Then the second half happened, right? The trade deadline happened. Before the even second half happened, the trade deadline happened. The Mets clearly needed a relief pitcher, even though at the end of the day, the bullpen wasn't the big story in the second half. They needed a relief pitcher. They needed a big bat. Epler decided to get Naquin, Ruff, and Vogel back. 200 hitters that can only hit one type of pitcher. But when you're a 200 hitter, you're not a good hitter. And, I'm sorry. When Vogelback is supposed to be your power bat that you bring in, and he hits, 16 home runs, 17 home runs? Marte hit 17 home runs. Kana and Nimmo hit 13, 14 home runs. When you want to get a power bat that hits 200, I want to see a guy hit 30 to 40 home runs, not a guy that hits 17 home runs. That's why when Epler made that comment that he likes the righty lefty combination platoon because Ruff crushes left-handers and Vogelback crushes right-handers. Well, you don't crush anybody if you bat 200. And I'm sorry, unless you're hitting 25, 30, 35 home runs, you're not crushing anybody. If you're a 200 hitter, you better be hitting 30 home runs. And that's what Vogelback and Ruff did not do. I mean, they barely did anything. At least Vogelback had a couple of games where he showed off his power and got big hits, but Ruff did absolutely nothing. I think the only RBIs he got, I was actually at that Braves game when the Braves blew out the Mets in that 4 out of 5 series, that weekend series. The only game the Braves won, Ruff hit the ball down the right field line when the Mets were trying to come back from that big deficit. That was the last time the Ruff did anything for the Mets. So, Tom, how you doing, buddy? It's just ridiculous that the fact that in the first half, the platoon for the DH didn't work. Why basically double down on a platoon in the second half when I don't like using platoons at DH at all? I don't think it makes sense. Get a quality bat. Give me somebody who can bat 260, 270. If you want to have somebody that hits 15 home runs, fine. But give me somebody who can put quality at bats together on a regular basis, who can hit lefties and righties. Or use the DH spot to give guys days off on the field. I'd rather you do that than try again with Daniel Vogelback and some other freaking scrub, because it doesn't work. All right? It doesn't work. Because, as I said, Vogelback, before the Oakland A's series, was hot. Remember, we went from Milwaukee to Oakland. Vogelback had a great series against Milwaukee. I think he was like 7 for 13 with a couple of home runs and a couple of RBIs, playing very well. Well, guess what? Oakland pitched 3 lefties in a row. Vogelback sat his ass on the bench, and Ruff played every game. That does not make sense. When a guy is hot, you can't sit him. But because Vogelback is garbage against lefties, and Epler's bright idea of, Ruff crushes lefties, Vogelback didn't even get more than 2 at-bats in that series. You can't have that happen. That was a disaster. And I said that during that whole second half. I said it again and again and again. When one of the players if Ruff was hot against lefties, like if Ruff had a big series against Oakland against the lefties, the next series is all righties. Well, guess who's starting? Vogelback. It makes no sense. Give me a guy who can hit righties and lefties at the same rate, around 260, 250, around that range, that can hit for average and can knock you 15 to 20 home runs. I'll take that every day of the week. Or go the route that I thought the Mets should have done, is if you want to give guys off around on the field on a regular basis, like, hey, today Escobar is going to DH, Beatty's going to play third, Marte's going to play DH, play the DH, give him a day off on the field. Go around the horn, go around the outfield, give guys days off that way. At least the guys in your lineups, you trust that if you put them at DH, they can put quality at bats together. I don't see why the Mets wouldn't go that route in the second half when they clearly didn't want to get a big bat that was actually worthy of being called a big bat. That's where I got pissed off. And I think the Mets missed every opportunity to do that instead of just wasting their time and giving 4 players for Darren Ruff, J.D. Davis, and 3 minor leaguers, and then give up one of the guys that was good in your bullpen in Holderman to the Pirates for Vogelback. It made no sense. So you gave 5 players for 2 basically string major leaguers who are borderline major leaguers. That's a problem. Alien, how you doing, buddy? So got about, you know what? I might just end the stream a little earlier because there ain't really nothing going on. To be honest with you guys, again, we're just going in circles here. Let's see. Yeah, there's just nothing, guys. It's crazy. All right, so I'll end it at 6:30. Just the fact that there ain't nothing going on. And again, tomorrow, 5 p.m. tomorrow is day 3 of Free Agent Frenzy. Hopefully something happens, or at least we get more rumors going on, because there was only 2 rumors for the Mets and basically 1 or 2 around the league. Nothing crazy. So we'll see if the rumors pick up and we get something going on here, because yesterday at least it was the first day. People got excited. The rumors were somewhat going a little bit crazy. We heard different things. We had a lot to talk about. It was a lot of talking points. Today, it's rather quiet. Again, I don't think I see a beat reporter or any reporter, baseball reporter, have anything on Twitter. You know, the last thing I saw was Andrew Haney a couple of hours ago, and that's something that's not earth-shattering. So unfortunately, what's the point of staying until 7 o'clock if you're just going to go around the bush over and over again? We already know what is going on. Mets are interested in Carlos Rodon and Andrew Haney. Nothing on the Jacob deGrom, Brandon Nimmo front, Bassett front when it comes to the Mets. Didn't hear nothing about Aaron Judge. Well, we did hear that Aaron Judge from John Morosi on MLB Network earlier today that the Mets spoke to Aaron Judge representatives. Again, take that with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's going to mean anything. I guess I just want to get an idea of what he's looking for, just in case as a backup plan. You just never know. And maybe the Mets will pivot to Aaron Judge. Who knows? But that's for another day. But let's wait until tomorrow. Hopefully we get more information. The stream will be up later tonight for day 3. So once again, guys, if you're tuning in right now, look for that stream tonight so you can hit on that like button early so we can get more people in the stream like we did yesterday. Once again, guys, nothing really happened on day 2 of MLB Free Agent Frenzy. It's unfortunate, but this is what the Major League Baseball all season puts baseball fans through. It's a stretch. It's grueling. It's annoying. And unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with. But guess what? We'll be back tomorrow. We'll wake up in the morning, look at Twitter, see if anything happened overnight, and we'll repeat the process and repeat the process and repeat the process. So everybody, I want to have everybody have a good night. Once again, happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. Let's hope the Mets make some moves, and hopefully good quality moves, and gets Met fans excited. Once again, guys, thank you for tuning in to MLB Free Agent Frenzy Day 2. See you tomorrow, 5 p.m., Day 3 for MLB Free Agent Frenzy. Everybody have a good night. As always, Met fans, let's go Mets. Have a good night, guys.